Here's a truth that no one wants to admit. Sobriety doesn't fix the void, it just clears the fog so that you can finally see it. I thought getting sober would be the answer, and in a lot of ways it was. No more chaos, no more shame, no more waking up broken, but now I was sitting there, clean, steady, and still feeling like something was missing. And so today, I'm going to show you 3 reasons the void stays: no mission, wrong replacements, and an identity gap, and how to rebuild them with God at the center. I stayed clean for years before I understood this, and I thought something was wrong with me. It turns out I was just asking the wrong question, and once I started asking the right one, everything changed. And this is where it got dangerous, because at first I thought that this was progress. Most guys think that sobriety is the finish line. Like, once you stop drinking or using, good news, you're fixed. Throw a party, retire, you check the boxes, you go to meetings, you got a sponsor, you got clean time, and somewhere in your head you're thinking, okay, this should feel different by now, but it doesn't. Because here's the thing, all sobriety does is remove the noise. It clears the static in your mind. And when that static's gone, you're left with the real question: who am I, and what am I even doing here? See, that's the part nobody warns you about. They all tell you to get sober, but they don't tell you what comes after, and most people relapse because they can't live without the static. I remember sitting in the sober house about 6 months sober, no cravings, meetings were going fine. I had a routine at this point. I would go to work, I was working at a call center, I would come home, I would eat, watch TV, and go to bed. I would wake up and do it all over again, and every morning I would sit on the edge of my bed and I would think, okay, now what? I wasn't running from anything anymore, but I also wasn't running toward anything. I was just there, existing. And that is a special kind of emptiness. The kind that sneaks up on you when you're supposed to be better. When everyone around you is proud of you and patting you on the back, but inside you're thinking, is this really it? It's like I'd been sprinting away from a fire for years, and when I finally stopped running, I looked around and realized I had no idea where I was even going. I was sober, I was stable, but I was completely lost. See, sobriety stopped the bleeding, but it didn't tell me what I was here to actually build. Being sober removes the chaos, but it doesn't hand you a map. It gives you a clean slate, and a clean slate can feel terrifying when you don't know what to write on it. And that's why you still feel empty, because you haven't replaced your addiction with a mission. You need something worth waking up for, something bigger than just staying sober, something that pulls you forward instead of just keeping you from falling back. And next, I'm going to show you how to stop trading one addiction for another so that you can find out what your mission actually is. A lot of guys get sober and immediately fill the void with other stuff: gym, work, scrolling, dating, Netflix binges, video games, whatever keeps the silence away. It's not doing drugs or drinking, and so it feels like progress. It feels like you're doing something right, but here's the hard truth. You're still running. You're just running toward different things. And distractions, no matter how productive they look, will never fill the God-sized hole in your chest. They can't. They were not designed to. You can hit the gym 7 days a week. You can work 80 hours and stack up promotions. You can binge every single show on every platform. But at the end of the day, when the noise stops and you're alone with your own thoughts, that emptiness is still there. I threw myself into work after I got sober, like obsessively. I told myself I was building something. And yeah, I was busy. I had projects. I had goals. I looked like I had my life together. And people would look at me and say, man, you are really crushing it. And on paper, I was. But busy isn't the same as fulfilled. I'd crush a 12-hour day, collapse on the couch, and still feel that gnawing emptiness because I was chasing achievement to prove I wasn't broken instead of actually healing what was. I was working myself to death to outrun the same feeling I used to drink to escape. Different drug, same disease, just socially acceptable this time. And that's the trap. Because nobody calls you out for working too much or doom scrolling or saying, I'm fine, I'm just focused. But you know the truth. You know when you're running. You can feel it. Distractions are just another form of numbing. You're sober, but you're still avoiding the real work. The real work is sitting with yourself, with God, and asking, what do I actually need? Not what keeps me busy, what fills me. Not what makes you look good on the outside, what makes you whole on the inside. Because you can stay distracted for years. I did. You can build an entire life around avoiding that one question. But eventually, the distractions stop, and you'll be sitting right back where you started, sober but still searching. And the reality is, I could have lived the rest of my life like this if God hadn't stepped in and revealed my true identity. For years, our identity was wrapped up in substances. We were the party guy, or the guy who can handle his liquor, or the guy who's always down. We had a role, and we knew how to play it, right? People knew what to expect from us. And here's the messed up part. Even if that role was destroying us, at least it was something, right? At least we knew who we were supposed to be. And when we got sober, we lost that, which is good, let me clarify, but it also means that we were standing in a vacuum. No clear identity, no tribe, no sense of who we are when we're not using. And that emptiness, that's the gap between who we were and who we're becoming. That's the space where most guys relapse. Not because the cravings are unbearable, but because they don't know who they are anymore. And so we'd rather go back to being the broken version of themselves that at least felt familiar than sit in the uncertainty of becoming someone new. I didn't know who I was without a drink in my hand. Seriously, my entire personality was built around being high all the time. Chaos. I was the guy who showed up with the stories, the guy who made things interesting, the guy people called when they wanted to go to party and get drunk or high. That wasn't just what I did, that was who I was, at least in my head. And so when I got sober, I felt like a ghost. I'd go to social events and just stand there awkwardly, not knowing what to say. No script, no character to play, just the real me. And I had no idea who that even was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know how to talk to people without a buzz. I didn't even know what I thought about things. And so, because for so long, I just went with whatever kept the vibe going, whatever could get me to the next high. And that terrified me even more than the cravings ever did, because at least with cravings, you know what you're fighting. With this was staring into the mirror and seeing a stranger. This was realizing I built my entire life around something that was killing me, and now I have to start over from scratch. And nobody prepares you for that. Everyone says, yeah, get sober, it's going to be great. They don't tell you that sobriety is going to strip away everything that you thought you were and leave you standing there with nothing. No identity, no confidence, no idea how to exist in the world as this new person that you are now supposed to be becoming. You can't build a life on what you're not doing. You need to build it on who you are becoming. And that starts with anchoring your identity in something bigger than yourself. Something that doesn't change when your circumstances do. For me, that was my faith in Christ. That was understanding I'm not defined by my past, my failures, or even my sobriety. I'm defined by whose I am. I am a son of God. See, that's my foundation. That is my identity, and God, that changes everything. Because when your identity is rooted in Him, you're not scrambling to prove yourself anymore. You're not trying to be enough. You already are. You're not trying to earn your worth. Your worth was paid for on the cross. It's already given. You're not walking around terrified that people are going to see through you because you're not pretending to be something that you're not. You know who you are. When I found who I was, who I really was, the emptiness started to fade. Not because I filled it with distractions or achievements or the right things to say, but because I finally found the one thing that was designed to fill it, and that was God. And so if you're sober and still feel empty, Now you know why. It's not that you're broken. It's that you're trying to build a life on willpower instead of identity. And for me, everything changed when I stopped looking inside myself for answers and anchored my identity in Christ. I created a quick purpose blueprint workbook that may help you find this. You can download it by hitting the link below. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, but what do I do next? I made a video on the 5 things that I wish I knew before I got sober. Definitely check it out right here.